All right, up next, Lucasfilm announced Tuesday that this year's new show, The Acolyte, will not receive a second season. The show was incredibly divisive among fans, though critically was well received. Showrunner Leslye Headland had pitched ideas for a second season, but those will not come to fruition now. What does it take to have success in a galaxy far, far away?
The Mandalorian and Grogu are successful in the galaxy far, far away. I was incredibly bummed, of course, to see that The Acolyte wasn't getting a second season. The cancellation was just as divisive as the show itself, because people were coming for people who liked it, and let's just not do that. That's my PSA for the day. Let people just feel their feelings and don't be mean about it. But yeah, this isn't really a surprise. Like, I can be objective and say that the fan critique around this show makes this not a surprise for me. I was hoping Lucasfilm would do it just out of spite, why not? What better reason to have a second show of a season of a show? No, I'm kind of kidding, like 80% for real, but I don't know. There were just so many cool things that could have been explored. It doesn't mean they won't be, by any means. They could do a spin-off animated series or, like, shorts, like they've been doing with Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith, or whatever it was. I totally forget right now. They could do more books. We know we're getting written material about the Acolyte. They could expand on that. There's a lot of ways to continue the story, even though it won't be live action, and I can very much see Lucasfilm doing that, even though it is still a bummer not to get the rest of the story. I just
want to come out and apologize, because I feel like it was the release of our Patreon exclusive about how bad
it was tangent talk. Yeah, that's what
our
did it.
reach
That was
is
the nail in the
further than
coffin.
you know.
Yeah, and I'm really sorry, because I didn't mean to kill the show, but I did.
Wow,
and I apologize.
Now, I come from a similar place as you, Haley. This does really make me sad and kind of bums me out. And I think what bothers me most about the situation is that it's like a repeating pattern for Star Wars, where I feel like they're becoming increasingly reactive, where we saw DC do the same thing, and I think Marvel's falling victim to that as well. But it just sucks, because I think The Acolyte, I enjoyed it, but it did have some issues. I think there were some issues with the execution. So there's a section of the fan base that has some legitimate concerns and issues with this show, but that's all being drowned out once again by this just loud vocal minority that their issues with the show are coming from all the wrong places. They were dead set against it from day one, because it was, female-led, focusing on female characters, doing some things to challenge the mythos of Star Wars as we know it in the role of the Jedi. And it reminds me a lot of The Last Jedi, where, that's not my favorite Star Wars movie. I have some issues with some of the choices they made there, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And it just sucks that everything has to be so high stakes in the Star Wars universe and fandom. Like, they don't get the chance to take these big swings and chances, because everybody complains that, hey, Star Wars feels small. We want to go outside of the Skywalkers in that saga. But every time they do it, we get this, again, vocal minority just banging this drum and creating divisiveness in the conversation in the wrong light. So I don't envy anybody at Lucasfilm right now, most of all Kathleen Kennedy. It just kind of sucks. Again, there were some issues with the story, but I think they set up a lot of things that season 2 would fulfill a promise of. I was really interested to see where that story was going. So it's just, I'm concerned for the future of Star Wars at this point. If they're going to keep responding to volatile fans like this, it actually kind of reminds me of the Snyder Cut as well. Like, I love the fact that the Snyder Cut came out, and I was grateful to watch it, but I never thought it was going to happen. When that campaign first started, I was like, there's no way a studio will ever give in to the demands of petulant fans. And when they did, I thought it set a dangerous precedent. So, social media and being actively online all the time comes with its benefits, but it also comes with its detriments. And I think this is one where it's just like, hey, shut up for a second and let them cook. And that even goes to, the Marvel Studios thing, all those, belly achers about anchor beings. I'm looking at you. Oh,
anchor beings is terrible.
Shut up and let them cook.
Conceit.
Let them see what they do. See what they do with it.
Sassy Scotty. So here
of course,
for
that's all tongue in cheek. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Let them cook. Yeah. And if they've got a great idea for anchor beings, I'm down. But I just don't logically, I don't like it.
Sure.
But that's what I'm so mad about this, because this was one of the more interesting Star Wars shows I've seen. I love this. I really, really loved it. But it just had a few moments that are terrible.
Sure.
And that really are like big plot holes to me that don't, and we talked about it on our tangent talk, but like, didn't mean I wasn't interested in more story. It makes me mad on multiple levels because I really hate I hate the like bad faith actors who come in and hate it just because it's female led or because it's minority led or whatever. Like that's stupid. And I hate that. But then I also hate it when people have amazing resources and like all of the like everything's going for them. They've got the galaxy far, far away. They've got all the resources of Lucasfilm, and then they make a few weird writing decisions that like derail it for people. And so then you get this weird alliance of people who are bad faith and people who are just good faith. Like that made no sense. Why did you do that? Can you I kind of hate that part of it, even though the show's good otherwise. And so it's like you get this alliance between these sides, and then you get a lot of yelling at the show. It's not fair because it's like it's this thing of like, I guess any show has to be bulletproof in a way, but like shows that are female led and minority led have to be more bulletproof because they've already got that some hate coming from one quarter. And so it puts you in this awkward position, especially as a commentator, like we are. Like, I don't like shitting on a show that is trying new things and pushing new boundaries, both in the real world and in the fictional world. I love that they're doing new things, but I also don't want to be dishonest when I see something that I really, really dislike. So I don't like being allied with people who are so bad faith and who are in it for the wrong reasons, but also there are parts of that show I hate. So it's like I'm part of that chorus, but also I'm part of the chorus saying like I wanted more because I think a few of the characters on that show are so interesting, and the actor who I'm forgetting his name, but
Manny Jacinto.
Yes, Manny Jacinto, amazing. I love him on other things, but in this he like pulled out a level and a gear that I didn't know he had, and I just think he was amazing, and I wanted to see more from him. Particularly we didn't get to know much about his character, and I loved the like mystery of that. It's really, really disappointing.
Yeah, it was such a weird place for a show to be in from the beginning because it had a lot of the Star Wars baggage that just comes with being a Star Wars property, which we've already sort of rehashed here what that means. But it's got the big budget, it's got the Disney Plus primetime spot, it's got all of these things that it has to carry. And then you can't run from what we've talked about, which is that it did start out of the gate with a lot of really negative attention from people. I mean, it was... you see the review bombs, you search it on Twitter, you see everything's extremely polarizing. It's extremely one way or extremely the other. And so it already had a lot of hurdles it had to jump. And then on top of that, it never peaked in the Nielsen ratings. It trended every week, like people were talking about it, but there weren't really a lot of people watching it out of the gate. And so it's like when you put all those factors together, it is just from a purely numbers standpoint, it's sort of a no-brainer for Lucasfilm. But again, like as someone who watched that show, and I wasn't necessarily crazy about it. There were a few episodes that just really lost me. But overall, like, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I saw the end and I was interested in sort of seeing what the next step of the show could be and seeing how they could explore some of the ends that they had opened up in season 1. But ultimately, it's kind of one of those things. We're just sort of left at a point where it's like, well, this is kind of where we're at with it. It's not something that's going to happen, and that's very unfortunate. But I like what you said, just kind of bringing it back to something positive, Haley. I mean, I think like we probably will see this world explored a lot more. We know that the High Republic has been explored a lot through print. I love the call of an animated series, but like print, I think has a very bright future for some of these characters in the Acolyte. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of these characters explored again in that form or in that medium. But But yeah, it's if that was a show that you really liked, it's definitely unfortunate and I think it raises a lot of questions about what the future of Lucasfilm TV looks like and what properties get put out there and which ones don't, and just what that charting that ship is going to look like. This is going to be a lesson in the story of what that trajectory for Lucasfilm is going to be.